Yeah, so this is also an infinite canvas. It's not infinite. I mean, it's a pretty big space. You know, you could probably support more samplers and synthesizers. At the moment, we only really have this one synthesizer. We have a sampler that's a work in progress, and I probably won't include it in the first release. So we have these synthesizers. We can zoom in. Let's get one that we can actually play here. Okay. So this is this synthesizer. And the unique thing with this that probably most other synthesizers won't have, or most other audio applications won't have, is we have these parameters, and once again this UI is very temporary. It is not the final thing. I don't want people to think it's some sort of new age, minimal UI that's meant to, confuse the user just so it can look cool. I don't want that at all. I want it to be very intuitive and very easy to use. This is just sort of placeholder UI just to get something up and running. I like the idea of circles. I want to use them, but I'll probably use them much less than this because they work in some situations but not others. Anyway, so we have these parameters here. I know what they are, no one else does, but the point is we have the synthesizer, which is like a FM frequency modulation synthesizer. It has 8 ops, it has a bunch of filters, it has some distortion. It's very similar to the Native Instruments FM8. I've copied some ideas off there, but it's sort of turned into its own thing after that. But yeah, this is, for instance, the pitch of each op. So you can hear the frequency modulation there. This 2D sort of space to work with. We can arrange things spatially, and depending on the relative arrangement of each element, we can do certain things. So one idea I came up with this is to be able to interpolate between these parameter nodes based on their spatial relationship. So we have this lerp thing. Once again, these are all placeholder graphics. I've just made them these sort of O-rings for now. Probably going to look very different in the final thing, but we have these this lerp thing, and this essentially interpolates between however many parameter nodes there are for the synthesizer. For in this case, I think we have 5. Yeah, we have 1, 2, 3. These 2 off to the side there. Anyway, the point is we have these 3 here, and the closer the lerp handle, this is called the lerp handle, the closer that is to a parameter node, the closer that node gets to 100%. So if we move it here, it's basically 100%. It's ignoring the others. If we move it in the middle, it's sort of a mix of all 3. These 2 are so far away that they're not going to really influence anything. If we move it close to them, that'll be different, obviously. And you see they kind of grow in size as we get closer. I'll probably do something much more interesting graphically there. Maybe some sort of electric like streams or something, I don't know, we could go to town with. So depending on the relative distance, size of these has changed, we could do all sorts of things here to make the graphics look great. But once again, I don't care about that at the moment. I just want to make this thing work and do the thing it's meant to do. So camera's gone out of focus for some reason. There we go. Okay, so when we move this lerper around, the point being is that before I messed up the sound, I had this perfect sound and I messed it up, and boo-hoo, poor me, I've screwed it up. So I can just move this lerper, it's going to reset it back to whatever it was, which is really nice. It kind of creates these anchor points with the sound properties, so we always have this thing to go back to. And the most important thing is all of these properties for the synthesizer are all lerp. We have these envelopes here. Zoom back in. We have these envelopes here. They don't look like envelopes because I haven't implemented a Bezier curve or a curve shader yet, but the point being is they all get interpolated as well. We can see that here as I move the lerper around. We can see how it switches between different envelopes. There's also a unison effect. There are a lot of different effects here. Some of them we're not using. We also have this per key velocity thing, which is pretty cool here. We can map a velocity for each operator on the frequency modulation synth. I haven't really got into that yet, but that effectively means we can do all sorts of per key sounds which is pretty crazy, but it means you can almost make like a drum machine just out of the synthesizer. We're not going to get into that yet. Anyway, the point is, when we play our sound, I'm just hammering the keyboard here, but you can see how the sound, see how that just nicely morphs in between. So, that's quite nice, and you'll probably notice as well that as I move this looper around, not only are the parameters of the synthesizer changing, the reverb is also changing. So why is that? Well, we also have these other parameter nodes that are hooked into this looper here, and these other parameter nodes, you can guess by the color, that are in fact going to this little send module, and the send module is what sends it. So there's no reverb now, we're not sending anything. And we manually adjust it. Once again, this UI is very rough. It eventually goes to this thing called the props, which is in fact a reverb. Probably won't use that name. Maybe I'll use that name. So the point being is that these two nodes, if we zoom out a bit, we can see down here, if we move our looper around, see how it modifies the send as well. So what that means is we can now sort of create this set of parameters across multiple instruments that we control with this single handle, which is very powerful. Now we can get these sounds that, we can associate these sounds together in a way that's just, it's just not really possible if you're modifying the parameters separately as you would with like a regular digital audio workstation. You'll have automation parameters for every single parameter, and it's just impossible. You can record them, and some of them have sort of limited morphing properties, but the ability to morph multiple instruments together is something that I haven't seen before, not at least as easy as we can with variations. So I think that's something that's going to be really useful as it comes to manipulating sound with ease. We can take this one handle, so we can get this vast range of sounds, and I haven't even really pushed this to the limit at all here. I mean, the range of possibilities here is just insane. Obviously there is a limit to these parameter nodes. We don't want too many of them. It's probably going to slow them down because each of them stores like I think for this synthesizer maybe I want to say 1500 parameters, something like that. It's over 1000 anyway, because once we factor in all of these, and maybe we might not do that, but it's a lot of parameters, and just being able to modify them like this is great, but it does require some calculation. We're interpolating every single parameter in the space. In this case we have, I think it's 6 actually, so taking 6,000 parameters, you're interpolating them many times per second. Even if we smooth that process, we use things like SIMD, it's still costly, so there is a limit there, but still, I mean, even with just 3 or 4 nodes, you can do some amazing things. And we'll hit record. It should jump to the start of the loop, and we'll just play some notes, and then we can move, we can record that interpolation. Okay, that's enough. Stop there, play it again. And you can see it moves around our interpolation handle, following this. It's sort of like a representation of the 2D space across time here. I don't know if I like that representation at this stage. Once again. So that's really cool, being able to manipulate a large amount of sound with a very small amount of movement. It's very important to me. And of course we can take these parameters, we can edit them, we just double click on them, just so we don't like that, we want it more subdued sound. Oops. And once we move the looper away, so now we have that subdued sound. But actually we don't like it. We can go back put it back. So let's save that parameter. So that's cool as well.